This is the barge that's being sandblasted. Some of this rust is so thick, it's almost as thick as my finger. When he gets to these places where this rust is a half-inch thick on the wall, he's got to sit there and dwell on it, chew on it a while to get that rust off. Once the rust is gone, you can see the pits left behind in the original steel. But some of this stuff is just crazy thick. It's been overdue. I guess that's the initials of the blast operator, the guy that's running my rig right now. I didn't train this guy. I'm letting a company rent my rig from me, and they're putting their personnel on it, and he's still learning. There's my sandblast rig. This is the second barge they're working on. You see where the thick rust has been removed, leaving pits in the steel. You can see the thick rust that's still there. Some of these places, this rust is thicker than my finger in some places. See, my finger goes right behind it. This stuff is huge. This is the second barge we're doing. The first barge, they've got it half done. I don't know why they switched barges, but that's up to them. They've got the bottom half done, and they have not done the top half yet. No, I take that back. This is the bottom. The barge is upside down. I stand corrected. Put these two barges together with pins. The pins lock in those grooves, connecting the two barges together. Then they put excavators on them, and they do dredging. After they're done sandblasting these, then I've got quite a bit of welding to do. You can see the wet spot in this corner where the barge is full of water and it's leaking. Another spot there, and quite a few of them. A spot here that's ready to. The corner is mostly gone. So we've got to reinforce these and put plates and patches on them. So I brought my small mobile welding rig with me. We're going to be running 2 welders today. We got enough power for 2 welders. I'll be welding on one of them. One of their guys can also weld, so we'll be double teaming it. it back 1 more foot and see how that does. Okay, before we show you the sandblasting, we'll show you the machine that we are working on. This is a pile driver and an auger. Brand new. This machine cost $5 million. It was made in Germany and transported here to the United States. The top of the boom is 100 feet up. And from up here, I like the view. This is Green Cove Springs, their industrial park. There's usually a good breeze at this location most all of the time because it is so close to so much big water that wind doesn't have too many obstructions to slow it down. This pile driver, when it's augering holes, it can run a 5-foot wide auger.
It can drill a hole 160 feet deep in the ground and pull the soil out of that hole and drive a 5-foot steel pipe casing all the way down to 160 feet. This machine weighs about 340,000 pounds. So a lot of times they don't want to just drive a pile. A lot of the times they want to firm up the ground. So while they're drilling their auger down into the ground, they will pump concrete down through their auger and mix that concrete with the soil to solidify it and add additional stability to the soil. So this machine can spend months on a site drilling holes and pumping concrete down. Naturally, that concrete gets spilled on the ground and this crane drives through it, and you can see those tracks are covered in concrete. This machine is 1.5 years old. The company that leased it out to the first contractor has now sold this machine to another buyer. And this other buyer doesn't want to buy it with all that concrete on the tracks, even though he's going to go out and do the same thing. When you spend $3.5 million buying a used machine, you'd like it to at least show up for the first day on the job with a pretty brand new paint job. So we're blasting off all the concrete so they can paint it. Just because it's been sold and the new buyer wants it to show up for the first day at work looking clean and pretty. Now, blasting this type of concrete off the track, it is the hardest type of blasting I've ever come across. This and an inch solid of caked on flaky rust, those are the hardest two substances to remove. Here you'll see the concrete is white and it has an aggregate inside the stones. You'll see the difference in a little bit. This is my sandblast rig. It carries everything self-contained in one setup. I just pull up, pull out the hoses, set it up, start it up, fire, and we can sit there for weeks at a time and blast continuously. That truck has a locker in the rear and a differential locker in the front. That sandblast trailer, if we're in soft ground, it takes some serious four-wheel drive to move it around in the yard. Okay, the drone battery's changed. I'm ready to fly it again. Now he's reloading the pot with sand. We put in about 250 pounds of sand or other blasting abrasive into that pot at one time. 250 pounds gives us about 45 minutes of trigger pull time. One of the things I've learned for higher performance to get more out of my machine, more power and more speed, is, believe it or not, to filter that sand going in the pot. See those little rocks not going through the filter? If they got in the pot, I've got to open my sand metering valve, open it to a larger setting, big enough that those rocks can go through the pot and not clog it. That also means it's letting a lot of sand go through the pot. Believe it or not, too much sand will hinder performance. As the sand comes flying out of the blast hose, it hits the crane we're blasting, it strips off the paint, the rust, the concrete, and now that sand has to bounce off of the crane, and it must get out of the way so that new incoming sand does not collide with it. So if I'm using too much sand, there's a lot of sand bouncing off the crane. Therefore, there's a lot of sand there to collide with the new incoming sand, and that collision neutralizes the power of the incoming sand. It doesn't get to hit the machine. Instead, it's hitting sand that's ricocheting off of the machine, and it's losing its power right there in midair before it even hit the machine. Like a cue ball hitting a cue ball. The incoming cue ball will lose its power when it collides with the cue ball in front of it. So by being able to have my sand metering valve open at the precise size I want, I actually get more power and more speed out of this machine, and it saves me costs and abrasive. Helps me keep my costs down so I can bid the job lower. That sand screen is custom built. There's nothing out there in the market like that to buy. I spent 2 days building it, welding it, putting it together. The screen is stainless steel, so it won't rust and very strong. Some construction is rivets, but that was just to hold the screen in place long enough for the adhesive to dry, which is really the screen holder is the adhesive. But all the framework was cut in individual little pieces and shaped to create that bowl design, and a lot of welding went into it. And then we put an aluminum ring around it to remove all the sharp edges, because it had a lot of sharp edges. That little sand screen, that's worth $2,000. But performance has a cost. Always does, and probably always will. Okay, the machine's loaded. We're ready for another 45 minutes of trigger pull. See that big fan? It's 6 foot tall. It's there to blow the dust storm away from him, to improve his visibility so he can see what he's doing. When sand hits steel, it will shatter like a beer bottle hitting a brick wall. That one grain of sand might shatter into 10 pieces. Some of those pieces are very small and they create dust, which will hamper your visibility. Now, when you're shooting concrete, we're taking that concrete and pulverizing it so small it literally turns into dust. So when I'm blasting concrete, especially here, I'm not just taking the paint off of it, I'm literally destroying that concrete all the way down until it's gone. And we're pulverizing that concrete into dust. So in many situations, we'll bring the fan to keep the dust storm blowing away from them. So here, there's a little bit of paint left on the undercarriage, a lot of rust, and a lot of cement splashed all over it. And the thicker that layer of cement is, the more dust we tend to manufacture. Now this company, this is the third crane of theirs, or pile driver, that I have sandblasted. 5 years ago, they called me up and I sandblasted 2 of their cranes the first time. I gave them a flat rate price and they liked it. They've had sandblasting services before. I was a little skeptical of how quickly the concrete could get chewed up, so I came out and did a test sandblast. I determined how fast my machine would remove it, and I gave them a price, and they loved it. They've struggled with other sandblast companies not being able to remove all of the concrete. And later, when we get to the cleats on the tracks, you'll see why. It can be very challenging. Only the best of the best machines can even do it. This flaky stuff in the tracks, it comes off quick and easy. But it's only 1/8 of an inch thick, maybe a 1/4 inch thick, a 1/2 inch in a few places. This stuff is relatively thin. On the cleats of the track, it is 1 1/4 inches thick. And when we get there, then you know we've gotten into something significant. So the first time I worked for this company, they loved the sandblasting. They asked me could I also paint them. I told them, well, I could, but I don't like painting and I'm very expensive. I am not the economical painter. And they explained to me that they were so far behind on work, they really couldn't afford to pull any of their guys off of their jobs to paint this machine. So they begged me to give them a quote on painting. So I gave them an hourly price on painting this machine. Well, no, not this one we're looking at. The first 2 that I sandblasted 5 years ago. I was hired by a gentleman named John, and he was the shop manager. So he hired me to blast them, which I did flat rate, and then to paint them by the hour. The more colors they wanted, the better the tape job, the cleaner the line cut, etc. The more time it takes, the difference between one coat or two coats or three coats, the more time it takes. So there was a lot of variables. So I didn't want to do it except by the hour. So everything was going good. The two machines were blasted. We spent a week on each machine, I don't know, maybe 5 days, blasting all the concrete off of each machine. Then we got into the painting side of it, and boy oh boy was it a lot of work, no surprise there. So many different angles to get into and spray paint. So John was there, and he'd come out in the morning. We'd discuss our game plan. He'd come out at lunch, see our progress. He'd come out at the end of the day, see our progress. And this went on for weeks. So then we're into the painting side of it, and his company sent him out of state for a couple of week project or some training. So John, the guy that hired me, wasn't there to watch our progress. So he left, and then the facility ex-owner, he used to own it before he sold it to ECA, but now he's the entire facility manager or director, or I guess vice president. His name was Steve. He used to own this business. So John has gone out of town on training, and Steve came out and started talking to me. Seemed like an okay guy. So I'm chatting with Steve, and I discover on one of the machines that we had blasted, he got in big trouble over that machine. The first big one, it had been out on a job for 2 years. It made its money. It came back in. It was ready to get blasted, painted, and sold. And then go buy a new machine and start renting it out again. Well, the company that had rented the big one for 2 years, they told ECA they needed another machine. ECA made the mistake of assuming it was going to also be a multi-year rental. So ECA goes to the manufacturer and agrees to lease a machine from them for a year, and then it would be in their possession and they could rent it out. So ECA delivers the machine to the customer's job site. They run it for a month only. It's brand new. Their job site's the first one it's ever been used on. They run it for a month and then tell ECA they're done with it. ECA leased that thing for a year. So ECA has got a year's worth of lease costs out of their pocket on a rental income of 1 month. So now ECA is ready to try to turn the machine back in early and hope not get hit with the entire lease bill. But ECA can't turn the machine back in with concrete all over the tracks. It's got to be turned in clean good shape, which meant they had to blast and paint it, and they're already in a financial hole over their rental bill. So Steve explains all this to me, and since he sold the company to ECA, which is now the parent company is very unhappy with him. He's got these massive leasing costs versus a tiny little rental income. And then on top, he's got to blast and paint this machine before he can turn it in. So Steve was in a big financial pickle. The pressure was on him, and he was really looking bad and corporate size. So we're making decent progress on the painting side of it. Most of that was getting it taped up for all the multi-different colors they wanted. They were picky, but it was a brand new machine, and on a $5 million machine, you can tend to afford to be picky, except in this case, Steve couldn't afford it. So we've been working every weekend in a row since we started. Steve comes up and says this coming weekend, he tells me this on a Thursday afternoon, this coming weekend, there's not going to be any employees in the yard or at the shop or the plant working. Therefore, I can't come in and work. Well, I had scheduled painting for that weekend. We spent Thursday and Friday taping off the machine and hanging paper for painting. And then we can't come in and paint Saturday and Sunday. Well, it turns out late Sunday evening, the rain showed up. And it rained and it poured and it rained and it poured. And the tape and the paper that was hanging on the machine, ready for painting, the rain tore it off. Most of it was gone. So come Monday, we couldn't spray paint like we had intended because they wouldn't let us come in Saturday and Sunday. Now the tape and the paper was off of the machine, and we had to start over. And Steve never came out and checked on our progress. Now his office, he's literally a 60-second walk away from us. He just didn't give a damn. So we finished getting them all painted up. We turned in the bill for the hours we had on the last week. And he was in such a financial pickle, he just couldn't turn in any more expenses on this machine to corporate. Corporate reamed his ass. So he was in such a bind, he decided to be a nice gentleman and share that financial pickle with me. Even though I was painting it by the hour, I turned in the hours we had worked, and then he wanted to argue. He says, I just don't see how it took this long to do. He says, therefore, I will pay you this many hours for it, but not all of the bill. Oh, I was so pissed. I almost punched him right there in the spot. He was simply shoving his financial pickle down my throat to save his ass, because he was ignorant and didn't get a long-term crane rental agreement when he turned around and signed a long-term lease agreement to get it. That was his doing, his stupidity. But now he wanted me to bear the brunt with him because he just couldn't turn in any more bill to corporate. So he refused to pay me some of it. Oh, I did get 95% of my money, but the last 10 hours of the job, which was $1,000, I was charging him $100 an hour for a painting crew on site to paint this stuff. The last 10 hours, he just refused to pay me. So he screwed me. I know he screwed me. He knows I know he screwed me. He knows he screwed me. There was nothing accidental about it. So years goes by and I figure I'll never hear from him again. I don't want to work for them again. I'll pause my story. While he's taking this concrete off, underneath is the aggregate. Some of these stones are large, and some of these stones are granite. And my goodness, is that granite a hard stone. you can blast it and blast it, and it just slowly wears down. You will get it, but boy, it does not come off quick and easy like the cement. So you got to sit there and dwell on it. And the inch thick rust and the 3/4 inch thick rust on an upcoming pile job I have to blast, I expect the worst of that rust to be equivalent to this. Most machines can't strip this off. So anyways, Steve doesn't pay me the last 1,000 he owes me, and I did make a good chunk from these people for a month's worth of work, but who wants to give up $1,000 you've legitimately earned just because somebody else made a poor decision and they don't want to take full responsibility for it? So 5 years goes by and ECA calls me up again, and they act like they don't remember me. This time it's not John, the shop manager. This time it's a new guy. I think his name is Kevin. He calls me up, says he's got some pile drivers to sandblast, and I recognize the situation. I've done it before, and I start telling him, you want to take the concrete off of the tracks. It's been out in the field, all green concrete, and the tracks are covered. He said, yeah, how do you know? I said, I've worked for you guys before. I've done this for you before. I've worked on your machines and I've stripped this concrete off. He said, oh, so you know what you're doing? I said, hell yeah, I've even got videos of me doing this for you 5 years ago. He said, oh, then you're the perfect guy. He says, the last guy we hired, they couldn't get all the concrete off. We were really frustrated. Can you get it all off? I said, yeah, I got videos of getting it all off. And I'm kind of surprised he's calling me up, trying to rehire me again. Do they think I forgot that they fucked me 5 years ago? Is their memory that bad that they don't remember screwing me? Do they screw that many people that often that we just blend in and fade out of their memory? So I'm rather baffled. So everybody else, they hired other sandblasters, would work by the hour and they couldn't get all the concrete out. So Steve asks me how much. No, not Steve. The new guy, Kevin, asks me how much. I tell him, well, I usually give you guys a flat rate price. Let me come out and look at it. So I came out, and Kevin wasn't the same guy that hired me last time. Last time it was shop manager John, so this is a new guy I'm talking with. So maybe he wasn't even aware the ECA had screwed me before. He didn't show any signs of it. So we talk, and I'm just not in the mood to be nice to this company. And I'm having a labor shortage. I'm struggling to find guys to work for me. Good guys, that is. And I tell him I don't want the job. He asks why, and I tell him, well, I'm having a labor problem. I can't hire enough good guys. He said, well, is there something you could do for us? I said, well, considering I can't hire good people, I said, the best I could do is rent you the machine. I said, I'll supply the machine, the fuel, I'll supply the abrasives, and I will supply the skill to teach your guys how to do it. And you put your guys on the hose of the machine you're renting, and then you can blast it and use my machine. He loved that idea. He'd seen how quick the test blast worked, and he couldn't believe we could get the concrete out of the cleats where everybody else had failed. So I gave him an hourly price to renting the machine. And he jumped all over it. And I asked him, I said, does Steve still work here? This is the guy that screwed me out of $1,000. I said, does Steve still work here? He said, yeah, Steve's up front in the office. I'm like, son of a bitch. I'm working for the company that screwed me out of $1,000, and they did it intentionally. And I'm thinking, really? And they're going to hire me again? Are they just stupid or desperate or what's going on? So I'm no longer loyal to ECA to do the best job I can for the least amount of money after they screwed me out of $1,000. I'm just not happy with them. So I show up to do their job, and I turned half of my power down on this machine. What we are doing right now, we are doing at the 50% power setting. My competitors couldn't even do this on their full power setting. And I'm still pulling it off at 50% power. I could turn my power up, we could do it faster, but I'm just not happy with ECA after getting fucked out of $1,000. So my attitude is, you guys screwed me intentionally, shoved me out the door, thought I'd forget about it, and now you need me, and you think I don't remember. And you think I'm just gonna walk up and kiss your ass? I almost didn't even work for them. So here we are, blasting, and I've got half of my power turned off. Instead of running 135 PSI, which I can run at, I've got my PSI turned down to 70. That's a 95% power loss. And even on half power, we're still eating this shit up. But watch those rocks. You can see how durable they are. Yeah, they do die. They come out of there. But sometimes you have to really earn it. And compared to the last sandblasters these guys hired, they were tickled to death how fast we could strip this off. So the day I finished up with this job, Steve comes out and Kevin introduces me to him, and I'm looking at him and I'm thinking, you don't look like the same Steve that screwed me. You just didn't look familiar. I said, you're that guy in the office? Yeah, that's me. I said, you don't look like the same Steve I worked for 5 years ago. He said, oh no, that was the other Steve. He retired. He's gone. They sent me in to replace him. I said, really? I said, so the Steve that screwed me 5 years ago doesn't work here, and coincidentally, you're the new Steve that took his job. And he says, yeah. I said, oh wow. I said, so you weren't involved in screwing me. He said, I have no idea what you're talking about. So I told him. I told him how the other Steve had beat me out of hours because he was in a big financial pinch. He says, yeah, we've heard that a lot about him. He made a lot of bad decisions. He should have retired 10 years before he started losing his mind. He says, we've been fixing old problems of his that showed up later. It's been going on a long time. He says, no surprise. I said, well, now I feel bad for turning my power down on you guys. So I explained to him what I did, and I felt bad. They said, no problem. You still got it done. You got it done quick. We're happy with it. And they said, since you got screwed before, you deserve to recoup some of your money. I'm glad you got it back. They were really cool, the new crew. I liked them. I will work for them again in a heartbeat. And next time, I'll give them full power. So this guy that's been blasting, he's been shooting at an angle. And I explained to him, if you shoot it at an angle, you're getting a lot of ricochet. You're losing a lot of your power. Shoot it straight on, perpendicular to it, and you'll have all of your power. If you shoot it at 45 degrees, you've lost 50% of your power as compared to shooting it perpendicular. And this guy just was such a slow learner. So I reconvinced him to get up there and shoot it straight on. So he finally does. Even though I got my power turned down to 50%, I just couldn't let this guy keep shooting it at an angle and throw away an additional 50% of the power. No, get up there, shoot it straight on, hit it with everything you've got. So I had to push him. He wasn't my employee, he was theirs. But I did agree to stay and supervise and be the skill for the whole job because I know sandblasting inside and out. With me on the job, you can just throw an idiot on the hose and I'll talk him through it and guide him and get a good job out of it. Although, I do prefer a smart guy on the hose, a quick learner. Those cleats are 1.25 inches tall, so that concrete and aggregate inside that filled them up, that's 1.25 inches of aggregate and concrete we are chewing up. On the upcoming pile sandblasting job I've got to do, where they're extremely corroded in some places, the majority of the pile is just paint. That will come off really fast. And then some of the pile is just average rust. That will come off very fast. But in a few places on each pile, there's areas where that rust appears to be 3/4 inch to 1 inch thick. And it makes me wonder, when I'm done blasting the rust off, will there be a hole through the steel? Is there even any good steel left underneath it? So in those few places on this upcoming job where the rust is 3/4 inch thick, I expect it to be as slow as eating out this aggregate and concrete. I was tempted to let you watch a lot more of this blasting the concrete, but how long do you want to see before you're bored? So now I'm thinking of cutting off the rest of this video, not showing you all of it, because it's essentially more of the same what we've already been seeing, and inserting some other videos of me doing other things where you can see the typical speed that we can usually blast things. So I think I'll do that. I'll stop here and go get some other video.
Okay, there's my sandblast rig. We're here at this log cabin on the lake. And we've got to strip this dock. We got 2 pallets of sand. We're going to use my little crane boom to lift the pot off of the trailer and roll the pot down the dock when we need to. This is a long dock. It's 255 feet. And it goes way down there. Goes to the end of that building there. 255 feet. And down there by the buildings it gets wide. It's almost 40 feet wide. The rest of this, all up here, it's only 5 foot wide. Well, he says 5 foot, but it looks like 48 inches to me. What's going on is this dock was treated with pickup truck bed coating, like a rhino liner. It's really hard stuff, really fucking durable. We did a test blast. It's a real bitch to get it up. This stuff is no ordinary paint. I'm gonna look, see if I can find a flake. Well, the reason he wants it off is he's figured out this pickup truck bed liner is locking moisture in the wood, so the wood can't dry out. Since the moisture is locked in the wood, it's rotting. But he can't see which boards are rotten because the bed liner looks so good, you can have a rotten board underneath it and never know it. This stuff is no ordinary paint. You can see how it's rotten underneath, but it's hidden. This stuff is rubbery. Boy, does it like to resist sandblasting. But my machine's so powerful I can still get it off. Ordinary paint falls off like it's freaking magic. This stuff, we got to work for it. He's got a nice little spot out here in the lake. Oh, there's a customer. Gotta go. Bye. That's a little bit more than what we need. We're not trying to strip it like he's going to repaint it. We want to strip it so he can see what's under it.
Oh.
So he can see even if we left a little bit more on.
I thought he put the paint on it.
He doesn't think so, no. Maybe oil that soaks in.
Okay. Like that, or you want that? Relax a little more.
That's about perfect.
Okay. Gotcha.
Okay, he's been blasting for about 20 minutes now. I don't know, maybe 30 minutes. Let's take a look at what he's got done in 30 minutes. If the wood is good, you'll get a little bit of grooving in it between the grains. When the wood is bad, it blows out really quick. We expected more bad stuff in here than we found so far. So far, this stock's in better shape than we thought. But we know for a fact there's a lot of rotten spots because out further in the dock, they put their foot through it. So here's what the rotten spots will start to look like. There's little holes where it's rotted away some. If I get the camera at a good angle, you can see the hole. If I'm above it, it looks invisible. Okay, here's some rotten stuff. We get the rotten wood out, and it takes just a split second, and everything that's left is good wood. Sorry if this is disorienting to you. So there's quite a few rotten spots, but once we got the rot out, we can see what's good wood. Here's a good example. This was good, that was rotten. The rotten stuff just blows out and leaves. Gets out of Dodge. And we're out of hose at the moment, so we're going to use my crane. We're going to unload the pot, set it on the ground, roll the pot down the dock, and we'll add some extra bull hose to feed the pot as we roll the pot down the dock. This is a badass sandblast rig. I custom built every bit of it myself. The pot holds 300 pounds of sand. Everybody wants to know what that is. That's a water separator. Here's my crane. I built it, welded it on, added all the framework to mount it to the trailer. That compressor is 375 CFM, and it gives me 125 PSI. empty, that pot weighs 550 pounds. Before I had the crane, it took 3 large men to lift that pot off the trailer. If it has any sand in it, the 550 pound weight goes up. Right now, when we ran out of hose, that pot's virtually full of sand. So we've got 300 pounds of sand in it, so we're looking at 850 pounds. There's no way 2 of us was going to lift it off. So the crane comes in very handy for taking the pot off the trailer. When the pot's off the trailer, I have bull hose long enough, I can stretch that pot out 300 feet, maybe 400 feet away from my compressor, and still have amazing blast power. For the record, that crane, you can buy them used at auctions. Those cranes average $1,000 to $1,500, and then the framework and the mounting and the welding, that's another $3,800, $4,000 to mount it, hook up the wires and get it all up. So if you want to do a crane like mine, you're going to need to have $5,500 in your pocket or quit dreaming. If we were smarter, we would have waited till the pot was empty, then brought it out. Okay, what we just spent the last 10 minutes, we lost an adapter to our electric extension cord. My dead man control on the pot is electric. I can't stand air-controlled dead men. They have a 3-4 second delay when you turn it on, and they'll keep shooting 3-4 seconds after you let go. The electric dead man is instant on, instant off. So when I do these extra long runs, I take the pot off the trailer. We got to hook up extension cords to get the electric deadman control to get its power from the blast trailer. We're adding the extra air hose to come out the dock. We had to lengthen our extension cord, and we couldn't find one of our adapters, so we just had to make a new one. We always carry extra parts. We just spent 10 minutes making a new adapter. It's up and running. We're ready. Oh, and in case you saw us bring the boards out, putting them on the dock to roll the pot on the boards, the dock is so weak, if I didn't have those 2x12s, I think my wheels would find a soft spot and fall through the dock. And if the 800-pound pot fell in the water, that'd ruin a whole day of mine. Yeah, I can use the crane and drag it out. Then I gotta dry it out. My electric solenoids for my air control might work, might not work. It might cost me a day, 2 days to fix that situation. It's just smarter to put some wood to stabilize the dock, and we roll on my wood, and we ignore the soft board or two that we know for a fact is on the dock. Okay, now you can see our blast hose snaked up on the dock with a lot of slack. So as he keeps going forward, the hose will stretch out. When the hose is out, we'll take the blast pot and we'll roll it further down the dock and coil this hose up again. And we'll keep repeating this procedure till we've done all 250 foot of dock. Okay, we just discovered something. What does air do to water? Okay. Let me get back. Okay, do that again. That is some damn fucking air pressure.
Got a pot wet.